Honorable David Ochieng.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise on Standing Order number 1, Standing Orders 172, 173 through to 176. Mr. Speaker, on the 29th of last month, I received a letter from the Office of the Minority Whip, which letter purported to communicate the intention of the minority side of this House, what was referred to as the Minority Parliamentary Group, to discharge me from the Committee of Health of this House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want you to allow me to request you to make a ruling on this letter I received, because I don't know how to respond to it, largely because I don't belong to the minority side or the majority side. I don't belong to NASA, neither do I belong to Jubilee. Mr. Speaker, this was something that was well publicized, and so the neck of the party that I belong to has been wondering, did David Ochieng enter a secret agreement with NASA in the House? Has the MDG signed a surreptitious agreement with NASA in the House without the neck knowing? So, Mr. Speaker, allow me to address you on this matter so that it can be rested. Mr. Speaker, the role of committees in any assembly cannot be gainsaid. In fact, writing in 1885, this is what Wilson Ruto had to say about committees. He said this, that it's not far from the truth to say that Congress in session is Congress on public exhibition, whilst Congress in its committees, in its committee rooms, is Congress at work. So, Mr. Speaker, I find myself in a very unique situation that I'm the only member of parliament of the party that I belong to. And so the issue arises whether, being the only member of parliament and therefore belonging to a party that will not be referred to legally as a parliamentary party, do I belong to any committee? Can I be allocated a committee, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, when this communication was made to me, there was a live broadcast where the minority leader of the minority whip in this House alleged that I went to his office and begged for a committee from him. So, Speaker, there is a procedure in this House for nominating members and allocating members to committees. This procedure, Mr. Speaker, is captured under Standing Orders 172 through to 176. So, Speaker, no member of parliament, whether the majority leader or the minority, can allocate another member committee. No. It's a process that culminates into approval by this House. In fact, you can't remember, even if the committee of selection allowed you to be in a committee, that must be approved by this House. And so I've always believed that my membership in the Health Committee was a membership that was appointed by this House, not by an individual, at least not through begging. I want to say it beforehand that if my belonging to the Health Committee is because the ODM party or anybody donated it to me, I reject it. I don't want it. I don't deserve it. Because this House has rules. And Mr. Speaker, as regards small parties, this is what Standing Order 174(2) says. That despite paragraph 1, a member belonging to a party other than a parliamentary party or independent member may be nominated to serve in a select committee, and the allocation of membership of select committees shall be as nearly as practicable proportional to the number of members belonging to such parties and independent members. Mr. Speaker, Standing Order 174(2) basically breathes life into the standing orders what the Constitution says. Article 10 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, is very clear about the governing principles, our values: inclusivity, equity, equality, non-discrimination, taking care of marginalized groups. That's what that standing order does. Mr. Speaker, there are 290 constituencies in this country. These 290 constituencies are equal. And so if we know the reason committees are there, And all of us know that most of the work of Parliament does happens in the committee. Is it possible, for example, Mr. Speaker, for the minority side to say that because that is one member of Parliament from a region where we control, he can't belong to a committee unless he talks to us? Mr. Speaker, it means that next time, then you not even tell me where to sit in this house because I'm a minority. Mr. Speaker, you know, history is very important. When you're born in a rich family, and you are told that your father used to ride a bicycle, you may not believe. In 1996-7, a man we respect so much, the Enigma, Baba, was the only member of his party in this house, only member of NDP in this house, and he was in a committee. In the ensuing elections in 1997, he came back with more than 20 members in his party. So I want to ask you that beware what we wish for. Because I could be one member in my party today, but tomorrow Suna East could go to MDG. So Speaker, how did I end up in the Health Committee? After the elections by-elections in last year, Mr. Speaker, I came to your office to inquire on how I get to a committee. And consultation with yourself and the majority leader, Mr. Speaker, it was agreed that because it will be untidy at that time to open up all committee memberships, Mr. Speaker, I will replace the member that I replaced in my constituency in the Health Committee, not as a donation from any party, but pursuant to Standing Order 174-2. So Speaker, the question then begs, can the minority group, which I don't belong to, purport to discharge my membership of the Health Committee? MDG has never signed a coalition agreement with NASA. We don't affiliate with them. So Speaker, for the last 1 year I've been in this house, and there's no single day where I've seen either the minority whip or the minority leader coming to me where I sit to whip me or to tell me what to do, because they know I don't belong to their party. And so, Mr. Speaker, I don't understand. I know that at this period in time, there is excitement about trying to link people with William Ruto, something that I've done in the campaigns in Kenya so many times. Mr. Speaker, you can do that in the public domain. You are allowed, but you cannot do it to willy-nilly break the law. Mr. Speaker, I would therefore request, Mr. Speaker, your ruling on the following, to cut it to the chase. Mr. Speaker, 1, whether in view of Articles 10 and 97 of the Constitution, a member of the National Assembly can be excluded from allocation and serving in committees of the Assembly because they belong to an unparliamentary party. Number 2, whether, in view of the provisions of Standing Order number 174-2, a member of Parliament belonging to an unparliamentary party is entitled to allocations and to serve in a select committee. 3, whether, in view of the provisions of Standing Order 174-2, a member of Parliament belonging to an parliamentary party must caucus with or affiliate himself or herself with the majority to minority parties to get allocated to serve in a select committee. Speaker, number 4, whether the allocation and service of myself in the Health Committee is a donation by the minority coalition where my party MDG is neither a member nor affiliated to the minority coalition. 5, whether the minority coalition can discharge me from the membership of the Health Committee. And finally, Mr. Speaker, whether the Committee of Selection has acted equitably in allocating me to serve in only one select committee, while other members of Parliament serve in up to 3 committees. Mr. Speaker, I believe that the termination of this matter, Mr. Speaker, will set the record straight and will, in a way, set the rules clear for the future. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, the Honourable Leader of the Minority Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue that Honourable Chieng has raised is weighty and fundamental, and I think it goes to the core of Article 2 of the Constitution of this country. Article 4, Chapter 2 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, it's clear in the Constitution that Kenya shall be a multi-party democracy, and therefore we are at liberty to choose to make conscious decisions and choices to belong to any party without any coercion whatsoever. And Mr. Speaker, it's on record and clear, as Honorable Chieng has said, that he made a choice to be in the party MDG. And Mr. Speaker, we have no quarrel with that. I just want to also confirm, Mr. Speaker, that MDG is not an affiliate of NASA coalition, neither is it related to ODM in whichever way. As a matter of fact, we were in competition in Ugenya. But Mr. Speaker, Standing Order 174 1 says that in nominating members to serve on a select committee, the Committee on Selection shall ensure that the membership of each committee reflects the relative majorities of seats held by each of the parliamentary parties in the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, it's obvious that Honorable Chieng's party is not a parliamentary party. It's actually a one-member party in this House. And so, definitely, this provision would leave him out. But Mr. Speaker, it's again true that what he has read regarding Standing Order 174-2, that a member who does not belong to a parliamentary party, because again, the members of parliament are supposed to provide oversight, and you can provide oversight only through committees, that he can be accommodated. However, where I have a problem, Mr. Speaker, and which you must rule on, is that immediately this parliament came into being, Mr. Speaker, a tabulation and calculation was done based on party strengths. And in all committees of parliament, all the departmental committees and other select committees, we agreed on the membership, demography, how many slots were for Jubilee and how many slots were for NASA coalition. And at that time, Mr. Speaker, we agreed that the independent members of parliament were going to ally themselves to be aligned either to Jubilee side or to the NASA side. And I know I can give example. For example, the MP we famously called Jichupevu decided to align himself to Jubilee and Chepkut, and yet Honorable Masara and Honorable Shakil, Shabir, aligned, and Charles aligned themselves to NASA coalition. So, Mr. Speaker, we assigned members to these committees, and Mr. Speaker, the main reason why this provision of standing order is here is because we expect our members to protect the interests of political parties in terms of policies and manifestos in these committees. So in the Health Committee, for example, which Honorable Chieng has referred to, we assigned an ODM member called Christopher Karan, who was then the MP for Ugenya. And when he lost his seat to Ochieng, Mr. Speaker, we agreed to allow Ochieng to continue sitting in that committee, courtesy of a slot that was given to ODM and to NASA, and by extension ODM. So, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Ochieng cannot have his cake and eat it at the same time. He has to declare whether he is not interested in aligning himself to NASA, in which case he must just do the honorable thing of surrendering our committee, which was assigned to NASA, and then the House, maybe collectively, can consider through the selection committee, which is chaired by the leader majority and where I sit. Then we can agree how do we deal with members who are kind of appear like nomads, people who don't have really parties where to sit. So, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, Mr. Speaker, this position of Christopher, this position that Ochieng is sitting in the Health Committee is a position that we magnanimously allowed him to occupy. And that magnanimity can only continue insofar as the person who is magnanimous wishes to be magnanimous. It is something you cannot force. It is something you cannot blackmail us into agreeing to. And so, Mr. Speaker, as a party, we have been doing some contact tracing. And if we do contact tracing and we find you in a political corner that we are not comfortable with, Mr. Speaker, we must isolate you, we must quarantine you, and we must deal with you as is required. So, Mr. Speaker, with all due respect to Honorable Chieng, and he's a good friend of mine, he just has to do the honorable thing in politics and accept if he doesn't want. And I'm happy that he has declared that he has nothing to do with NASA. He has nothing to do with ODM. And I want him to continue like that because he could cause confusion and cause my ODM party some pain, Mr. Speaker. I want more numbers in this parliament, in the 13th parliament. And I want Chieng to take the position he has taken, that is away from us, so that we again deal with him in 2022 properly as MDG against ODM. And I will lead the party again. I know he succeeded in defeating my party this time, but I'm organizing myself better, Mr. Speaker, as the chairman of ODM to face him head on in 2022. And it should start today, but I would ask him kindly just respond by resigning, leaving our seat, and then we will consider you as a selection committee for any committee that we may find available for you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What is this contact tracing?
Isolated.
Honorable Amelia Odhiambo, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, noting that Honorable David Ochieng has been isolated, I am worried that he's a bit too close to me, so he might not be keeping social distance, which might affect my electability. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, I want to just say, really, having listened to Honorable Ochieng, we are a house of rules, we are a house of procedure, but we are also a house that adheres to the Constitution. The issues that Honorable Ochieng have raised are very pertinent. But as a lawyer, and I'm sure from what is read and what Honorable Mbadi has read, he knows that he's actually standing on stilts. That there is no constitutional provision or, I mean not constitutional rather, but our standing order does not support his position. Because as one man member of a party, he actually does not qualify. By his own words, he's actually said that it is unfair that he's a member with one, even though he's in one party member, he only qualifies to be in one committee, which is health, when other members have 2 or 3 committees. Most of them are actually in the Jubilee Party because of their strength. I am in minority party and I'm only in budget. So really, if that is the procedure, my party couldn't have worked so hard to get so many seats, and it's in health and I'm only in budget. It would only be fair that he lets go of health so that it is given to me, so that it shows that I am minority and not so that is actually in a single party. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, I think the pertinent issues that are being raised from an equality and equity perspective and representation, I think we need to amend our standing orders so that people don't serve at the mercy of majority or minority. Let us as a house going forward make provision. I know Honorable Duale is saying no way, but let us make provision for the reality that they are actually members who have come in as independent members. And how are they serving? Even if they are going to serve in half a committee, to acknowledge that they are serving, let them serve in half a committee. But just to recognize that they are also representing their constituencies. It may not be now, and I know, Mr. Speaker, that is not something my chairman would be keen on supporting, but it is actually what is in the Constitution, that we need to understand, to observe human rights and the rule of law on issues of representation. But unfortunately, the law as it is does not support that position, and hence Ochieng's very elaborate, Honorable Ochieng's very elaborate plea is actually not anchored currently in law. So let him release health and give it to me, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, my good friend Ochieng, but that is the reality when you are not in either majority or minority party.
Leader majority.
Mr. Speaker, this matter is very weighty. And I think it's one of the times that this House will look at you to make a decision. Because, Mr. Speaker, our system is presidential system. And both in the Constitution and the standing orders, it recognizes the majority and the minority. It recognizes who is a parliamentary party and who is not a parliamentary party. And the threshold for being a parliamentary party is also stipulated in law. So one, Honorable Ochieng's party is not minority. Neither is it majority. Neither is it a parliamentary party. And when we started this session, not only this session, Mr. Speaker, even the 11th Parliament, the independent members of Parliament and members from small parties were coalescing around either the majority or the minority. We have a number, we have about 18 independents in this House. And based on the regions they come from, they align themselves, or because of other reasons, they align themselves to certain, either the minority or the majority. The NASA coalition was a coalition. Jubilee has a coalition. Jubilee and its small party affiliates and independents. But Mr. Speaker, so Honorable Ochieng, in my opinion now, we need a guidance, a communication that will be used by even future parliaments if we adopt, if we still live in this presidential system. Why am I saying so? The function of a member of parliament in the Constitution is to legislate, is to oversight, and to represent. So, outside our parties, he must legislate, he must represent. And I think this kind of a matter arose in the 10th Parliament, I'm sure if we go back to history. But now, we are under a new, different dispensation. And I'm sure, apart from Honorable Ochieng, and we have been very good to him. In fact, when he won, we sat with the minority leadership and myself, and we said, okay, the only seat available around here is a seat of our brother Christopher Karan. I mean, Honorable Ochieng wanted to go to legal committee. We told him, you have no space. So I think the best thing for now is, because this is a season for contact tracing, this is a season for quarantine and isolation, and the weather is not, and social distancing, and the weatherman, what is predicting politically doesn't look favorable. I think you, as the Speaker makes communication, because the Speaker is not a member of any political party, because I think, Honorable Ochieng, we need still to sit, and that's why we are leaders. We want you, you are one of the vibrant members of Parliament. You need to represent your people. But I think going forward, Mr. Speaker, I think you need the communication you're going to give either way, Mr. Speaker, is going to set a precedent for even future parliaments. So I think it's a very, very weighty matter, both constitutionally, looking at the rights of the member of parliament, the rights of his voters, the rights of political parties, who is a parliamentary party, do you have the numbers? And the Speaker, on a small joke, you know, in the pastoralist, Honorable Chachuganya, a man who has so many camels, will agree with me. I don't know about Honorable Millie, how the fishermen behave, or the fisher women. But in the pastoralist, those who have got small goats and few animals, their decision is made by those who own 100 camels. You know, the big, those who own 200 cows, because even during drought, they help him. When there's no milk, when there's a crisis. So this is why, you know, the minority and the majority, you have to coalesce around something. Honorable Ochieng, if you are very uncomfortable with the minority, nothing will stop you. We will still do the calculation with Honorable Bandi, and if we find a slot, we will give you. So you are not isolated as such. So if you feel, because me, I thought you are more comfortable with the minority, even for your 2022 politics, but if you don't want them and they want to quarantine you, please join us. We'll do the numbers with Honorable Bandi as the Speaker gives us the communication, because we don't want to deny, we want to respect each and every member here. All that we want to do is that we must have and follow the minority and the majority and agree on who is a parliamentary party. Speaker, you know there are many people, but you need to declare in your communication who are parliamentary parties in this house. It is Jubilee, ODM, and Wiper. The rest must look for somewhere to surrogate. You must look for somebody to surrogate around. And the problem is not us. The problem is the people of Kenya. So, no, Amani is not a parliamentary party. Fort Kenya is not a parliamentary party. MDG is not a parliamentary party. So I think the Speaker, even in your communication, it's good the country knows who is a parliamentary party. But I'm sure that, in fact, this matter Honorable Cheng has raised is not only for him. I think even for future parliaments, and even for future independent members of parliament, if they feel like they don't want to work with the minority or the majority, then being a member of parliament, they have rights, then I think your communication, Mr. Speaker, will be, and I'm sure you're up to the task, that this is a serious matter and you'll give us direction.
I think we don't. I don't think we require to. No, I'll deal with the matter. You know, it's not very complex. I know the spirit. And those of you who are in the last parliament, Honorable Millie, there was a reason why we did some things around 174. Yes. And I think, but anyway, we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. It's not. Every member is entitled really to serve in a committee. That's a fact, whether independent or belonging to a party. It is how they get into those places, those committees that we need to determine. So I think we can leave that one at that. Let's just leave it to rest, Honorable Mbui.